Welcome back. Let's check how you did. So here was the worksheet number 4 in the effective conclusion. This was the question, and that was the concluding paragraph. So let's have a look at the question. Look at lines 37 to 40, so we're helpfully told where to look. Select any expression from these lines and explain how it contributes to the passage's effective conclusion. The paragraph itself is quite straightforward. In conclusion, the Ofcom study is eye-opening, if not alarming. It sheds light on our new habits created by modern technology. We may be scanning our phones several times an hour and reaching for them the moment we wake up, but it strikes me that we are doing so in order to stay in contact with the ones we love and care most about. The links here it's the same style as we looked at in the example sheet. If you scan your eyes down to the bottom paragraph, now if you're watching this on a small screen like a phone and this is too small, don't worry, I've done this up with a worksheet as well, which you'll be able to download. In fact, I'll show you what that looks like. The full worksheet is here, including the questions, a hint, and the answers. Okay, so they're all there for you to use as a revision guide, study aid. So if we look at the bottom paragraph, that's the concluding paragraph, and we know that we're going to get 0 marks if we say something generic and boring like the conclusion is effective as it sums up all the ideas in the passage. Right, we're getting 0 for that, so we're not going to say that. So what we're looking for, I've highlighted 4 links. Now there are more than that. When I tried to highlight more, the page just got too cluttered and it was hard to follow what was going on the screen. So I think this is the maximum I can fit on with you guys still being able to follow it easily enough. So we'll start with the black link. So the black box, black arrow to black box. So the Ofcom study is mentioned right at the beginning of the conclusion. Now that was mentioned right at the start as well. So it's a nice straightforward link. Dead easy link to make. That this study that was all about mobile phones and technology and how we use them is mentioned twice in the passage. So how does that look like in the answer? The writer mentions the Ofcom study again in the conclusion, which is very effective as it refers back to the opening paragraph where the study is first mentioned. For example, in line 2, according to the results of an Ofcom study. So the study is mentioned twice. Easy 2 marks once we're nice and specific. Moving along to the green section here. So again, looking at the bottom of the page where it says we may be scanning our phones several times an hour. Again, that's just recapping. It's saying again something that was already said. Where people in the first paragraph, it says they check their phones once every 12 minutes. Now there were you could have used the same quote for, if you look at the conclusion, it sheds light on our new habits. You could have made that link either. As I said, there's more than one possible link. I'm just showing you some of the examples. But how does that look in written format? In the conclusion, the writer states we may be scanning our phone several times an hour, which is effective as it revisits, there's that word that I gave you from the last video, the idea of how often we look at our phones, e.g. in lines 2 to 3, people check their phones once every 12 minutes. So, nice link there, full marks. Let's look at the light blue section. In terms of reaching for them the moment we wake up, and the them is the phone, so reaching for our phones the moment we wake up, that links to lines 26 where it says almost 2/3 of under 35s check their phones within 5 minutes of waking up. So we get the same idea again. The link here is again straightforward. The writer repeats the idea that people crave their phones and are reaching for them the moment we wake up. This is effective as it refers back to statistics given earlier in the passage. For example, in line 26, almost 2/3 of under 35s check their phone within 5 minutes of waking up. I think we're starting to get the idea here. Hopefully you are anyway. One more example. In the purple section at the bottom, to stay in contact with the ones we love and care most about, that was mentioned in the 3rd paragraph. That's why apparently we're using WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger and Snapchat to communicate with friends and family. So here it is in a written format. In the conclusion, the writer revisits the idea that people use technology to stay in touch. And the quote there is to stay in contact with the ones we love and care most about. This is effective as it revisits the idea that was first introduced in paragraph 3, e.g. in lines 10 to 11. It seems we're turning to messaging services like WhatsApp, Facebook, Messenger and Snapchat to communicate with friends and family. In fact, you could probably have just used those last 6 words to communicate with friends and family as your quote. It would have been enough. I was just being super careful. So in the worksheet, I asked you to have a look here at the idea of giving as many answers as possible for practice. In the exam, you only need to give 1, but I'd advise you to make 2 links if you have time. Therefore, if your first link is wrong, chances are your second link will be correct and you'll get the full marks. keep this graphic in mind whenever you're doing the effective conclusion. We're looking for specific quotes, specific examples, and we're looking to link from the conclusion to anywhere else in the passage. We don't link back to earlier in the conclusion. That's too short a link. It has to be back to one of the earlier passages. We can even link back to the title if that's helpful. Here we go. For effective conclusions, questions focus on ideas that have already been mentioned in the passage. Link those ideas. If you do that, you'll be absolutely fine and you'll do brilliantly. So, time to celebrate. You now are well on your way. You've taken the steps to master the linking question and the effective conclusion question. You're doing so well. I'm really proud of you guys for getting this far in the course already. So, along with the other skills that you've looked at in the other videos, you're well on your way to doing really well in the assessments, but more importantly to understanding the language that we're using every day. And hopefully your confidence is starting to grow. You won't be able to watch these videos and just straight away ace the exam, but it's giving you the foundations that with plenty of practice, plenty of past papers, identifying which questions you need to do more work on and practicing those even more, that you really will succeed and do really well and get the results that you deserve. So well done again. That's the end of the linking and effective conclusion questions, and let's move on to the next section and I'll meet you there.